Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on January 28th, 2023 at approximately 4:28 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary reason, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in order to turn my life around. And the philosophies I talk about are the exact same philosophies that I live my life by. Okay, this is just the nature of the way things are for me. This does not, by any functional stretch, mean that I am mean that I am perfect. I'm pretty certain I'm alive, although I've tried cutting that short a couple of times. Not suicidally, just my body didn't hold out properly. But the reality of it, from my standpoint, is pretty cut and dried. Okay, we all have an interesting situation that we have to live with. Everybody in existence is. Little Katie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You actually come in with the gold today. The reality of it is we are all starting at exactly the same place. Right here, right now. There's not a single individual in existence that is in a different place than this. We have various different talents, various different skills, no question there. Okay, but the reality of it is that what we are looking at is every one of us has the same options. Eris, glad you could join us. And you come in with the silver. And there's Wyatt coming in hot behind you with the bronze. I take a look at the world in a very different fashion than many people do. Okay, and does this bother me? No. Do I relate to people? Honestly, not as much as I would probably like to. But I had an interesting conversation just today because I was running into some snags. And sadly enough, even though I tell people this is what is necessary, sometimes, and I will caution you, sometimes it requires, or it seems to work better if you hear the same thing back from somebody else. Okay, in my case, I have been dragging a staggering amount, and it was pointed out to me in really poignant fashion today. I've been dragging around a staggering amount of complications with me. Okay, walking into situations and essentially setting myself up for complications. Now, you would think, that I got that message. I've been telling people this same thing for literally decades. And Saint, how you doing? And you come in with honorable mention. In all fairness, okay, I only stop at that point. Every single individual in existence is of the same spiritual value. There is not a one of you that is worth more than the next, spiritually speaking. Financially, we're not going to get into. Okay, because that nearly was a disaster. When you think about it, all kinds of people run down an interesting situation. Okay, everybody has their own take on life. There's no question there. And it's not a question of is it right or wrong. I am going to have to take that off. There we go. Well, hopefully we'll be able to do something. Now, I will tell you, I ran into a very similar problem there, Saint. I understand you're not overly happy today. This won't make you feel any better, but you would not believe how problematic I was running through things last night. And I really do appreciate the support, especially if you're not feeling up to it. Now, it was suggested somebody suggested, I'm terribly sorry, I forgot who, but somebody suggested we discuss the nature of reality today. And the nature of reality is quite simple. Okay, and we've all got the same ability to modify our own nature, our own reality. But it requires effort. It is not something that automatically takes place overnight. Okay. I think I've got this set up a little screwy. So how about if we do that and then we can actually see? The reality of it is, if we focus on the things that we've had problems with, and this is where I was running into the snag. I was talking to somebody today. To be more specific, I was talking to my little brother today. And as he pointed out, he goes, you're walking into these situations expecting them to blow up. Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's gone well. The thing is, we've got to take a look at life to start with at where we're standing right now. Now, you can have the most miserable day or the most miserable night if you focus on the fact it's been miserable, okay, or the most miserable hour. This is where putting the past to rest, in other words, going, okay, I had a lousy night, I had a lousy hour, whatever it was. You can carry that with you and go, I'm going to continue having a miserable day. Or you can go, I'm not having a miserable day anymore. I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to find the positive things. Now, something happened today when I had the conversation with my little brother. Something twigged. I don't understand it. I don't know, and I cannot explain it entirely. All I know is that something feels different. Oh, understandable, Joe. Do enjoy it won't get done in time. I was gonna say, let us know who won, but I used to watch wrestling, right? And I just kind of got away from it for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is I quit watching TV at all. But we all have the option. We can choose to hang on to whatever went sour. The funny thing is, I love the song, okay, but fools are not the only ones that fall in love, okay. The Saint's just asking, why do fools fall in love? In all fairness, life itself was designed for people to come here, for spirits to come to a physical form and experience life under one roof. And okay, as a family, but a family is defined in that aspect as two adults of any gender, any species, under one roof on equal ground, not one owning the other or one bearing worth over the other, and having under their guidance as many people as they so-called desired. See, what we have to remember, and this is obviously something that is going to become a very big part of it, when we're looking at love takes whoever you're looking at and brings them to you, regardless of their conflicts, of their internal conflicts, and you accept the person as is. Now, you are correct, Harris. Many people do fall into a dysfunctional relationship thinking it's love. Many times, this is a question of seeing somebody that is, if you will, damaged, been through a real rough run, and the person goes, "Oh, I can fix them." Well, here's the news flash for you: not going to happen. Okay, you can absolutely support the people that you love. You can absolutely encourage them, but ultimately, it is up to them to turn around and make things work. Okay, you cannot change the person. YJ, how you doing? How you then? We'll try English. YJ, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. The reality of love, okay, is this. You're drawn to somebody because there is a connection. Like, all people are connected, but the closer you are to that connection, to what currently is referred to as a soulmate or a life mate. Okay, now do understand, when we're talking marriage, there's a very big difference here. Okay, marriage, people get married until death do we part. Well, the first rule of thumb you got to look at is that death that is referred to is the death of the emotional connection, not of the physical body. Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has gone well. So what happens is we are designed, we are absolutely designed to find companionship with another person. Now, humans call it love. Other races call it something else. Okay, but the way you know it is true love is if you are sitting on equal footing, if you are putting that person at the same level as you, okay, with the same value, with the same, not the same skills. For pity's sakes, understand that this is not a question of looking at somebody and going, oh, they're the best of the best. We are not, when we're talking about loving someone or being in love, we are talking about looking at that person and treating them very much the way you desire to be treated. Now, it's a spiritual connection. It is not just this funny little thing called physical chemistry. The reality is that true love is a spiritual connection. It's going to work. It is not something that I really find that person attractive and I want to spend the rest of my life with them. Because, and for whatever reason, many people look at it and go, I would love to wake up next to that person every day for the rest of my life. Of course, people forget that as you age, number one, things change, and that's a spiritual path. The trick with love is to accept the changes as they happen, providing you are not going against your own bond. Okay. One of the dead giveaways that a relationship has collapsed is if you find yourself lying to your partner, or if you find yourself crying, being physically attracted to another person. Okay, the bond at that point is something that has to be looked at. The nice part about it is that love itself is a binding connection, or a bonding connection is better. Because binding always gives me the impression that you're in a trap. Okay, love is a bond on a spiritual level that you see past the person's physical, past their dysfunctions or their misfires. Okay, and you see the person within them. Okay, now you can certainly love somebody that you're not functionally compatible with. Okay, but the thing you've got to remember when we start looking at the nature of reality, what you put your effort into, whether it is positive or it is negative. Okay, world, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Whether you are putting something in positive or you're putting forth a negative emanation, either way, the nature of reality is what you are actually emphasizing. That's what you are fertilizing. Okay, and that's where it gets to be a real problem, and where it can be a real problem. Well, you are right, YJ. Love means different things to different people. There's all sorts of different ways of putting it, but I will tell you this. The moment that you start putting demands on, I will do this if you do that, okay, you are already running into snags. Now, I have told my other half, okay, like, I am not a control freak by any means, at least not in my eyes. Okay. But I told her, there's one thing I'm not going to support her in doing, and that's driving in downtown traffic. Of course, we got to remember, my other half happens to be totally blind, which does have a certain amount of interest in letting somebody do that, letting somebody drive like that. At least she's got a reason not to drive properly. Well, Philip, I'm going to have to take your word for it. I am not versed in ancient Greek theology, or any of that for that matter. The reality of it all. Janice, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The thing that we're looking at here is, in order for us to actually land on the same page, in order for us as a society to turn things around, to make things change, to guide them into a better world, we have to start with the first step in that funny little configuration of love. You've got to accept the person that you're in love with, or the person that you say you love. You have to accept them as is. Now the reality is, you can love somebody, but love is not all that it takes for somebody to shift gears. It really isn't. With reality, a couple of things that come in really, really important. Is you take a look at what you're doing. If you think about it, that's great. Now, there's this theory that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Absolutely agree there, YJ. YJ's just saying, when love becomes transactional, it's definitely heading into superficial territory. That's a really twisted way of putting that, Joe. And welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. I never did take to whiskey with a strand of hair in it, but it's kind of like a shot of whiskey or a beer with a fly in it. But you take a look at the person with their strengths, with their weaknesses, and you have to accept them as is. But the thing people make a big mistake over, the biggest thing people seem to make a mistake over is thinking that love alone is going to be enough to turn that person around. And I hate to tell you this, guys. Well, no, I really don't. That is not the way it works. How are we doing, Jenny? Glad you could join us. I'm looking at the way the world is working right now, and really, the question there that I always ask there, Shadow, like Shadow's just said, I don't drink anymore. Of course, the important question is, do you drink any less? I know from my standpoint, I just essentially quit drinking. But when you think about doing something, this is where it starts. Once you get it to the point of uttering it, you're now drawing it into the material world. You're giving it a form of physical existence, thereby making it far easier. And the real trick to reality is this. We can look at the world and go, I desire my world to be a little different than what it was. But understand the nature of reality. Reality is essentially a battle of wills. In other words, if I desire my world to shift, and everybody else around me desires the world to stay the same, I've either got to develop one heck of a stubborn streak. I've got to either develop that stubborn streak where nobody's going to derail me. And this is where I had to come. This is the point I had to go. I used to think my world was my oyster, and then I went and ate my oyster, and I think I screwed my world up. But hey, what the heck? Funny thing there, Philip, is the scientific definition misses entirely well, almost entirely, the reality behind love. Because love is not exactly a functional quantifier. Okay. See, I remember, if I recall correctly, they were a cult, were they not, there, Shadow? The thing is, reality, when you start thinking about it, when you start going, this is what I desire, you start with the feeling up here in the etheric plane. It gets down to either your heart, this funny little drive, or your head. It's kind of flip as to which one gets hit. Okay. But it is not until you reach that point where, when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you will achieve it. Okay, because that's when you get that drive to really push, that's where you get that drive to really push things into existence and alter the way your life is going. Ultimately, yes, Philip, that is simply another word for it. Okay, the higher planes, the etheric plane, your higher self, your God, your super consciousness or supra consciousness, depending on who you talk to. These are all different words for the same thing. Okay, and basically what it boils down to is we take a look at it and go, okay, since I can't figure out where the origin is in my head, I've got no reason for coming to this. Like this conversation I had with my little brother today. I should have had it years ago, but whatever happened, and I probably did have it years ago, whatever happened today, twigged. Okay. And I all of a sudden feel that I can actually pull off what is necessary, as in dealing with corporations, dealing with, government and what have you. I'm not betting on being able to handle computers properly. And that has more to do with my bioelectric field, and it's scrambling things really badly. And that is true there. But you know why, Jay? I mean, it's January here. Start tonight, and that way it'll be ready earlier. But that could be a bit of a challenge. Again, when we're talking about modifying reality, when we're talking about the nature of it, a couple of things to think of. When you talk about what you want to have, what you're actually asking for, or more to the point, what the universe actually hears, what the upper echelon hears, however you want to phrase it, the energy you're putting out is an energy of want, an energy of lack. Okay, so when you go, I want to have this, much as in linear thinking, this makes total sense because you don't have it in your hand, wanting it makes total sense. Unfortunately, because the universe takes place, the past, present, and future are all existing simultaneously. And the present is the only one you can ever do anything with. That's the only time you can affect things. Okay, with that in mind, if we take a look at it and you say, I want such and such, what you're actually telling the universe is, I desire a lack of whatever it is. Okay, and that lack is what you end up manifesting. Then you sit there going, but I said I wanted this. Why didn't I get it? And this is where people that are turning around, and it's the biggest complaint that I've got, or the biggest hiccup I see in the whole idea of the way you phrase things. Now, I did do, if you go back in my earlier videos, probably somewhere around the beginning of, around summer of 2021. Okay, if you go into the archives, and I don't even know how archives work, but the videos I put up, okay, look for one titled Language, Want. Listen to it and take note of why want becomes self-debilitating. Okay, because reality works this way. You get an idea that you desire to accomplish, and what happens is that's where you start putting the effort. The moment you start uttering, this is what I'm doing, all of a sudden it kicks things around into a really odd flip. And you may run into snags getting what you're asking, getting what you think you're asking for. But just a thought. When you are looking at the word want or the word need, either one of them, change that over to either you desire or you choose whatever it is that you're asking and whatever it is you're looking for. Second of all, do not ask for anything from your higher self. And the reason I say that is because when you're asking for something, you're telling your higher self, you're telling, your God, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you're telling it, I desire to feel a lack of having this thing. Okay, turn around, and when you go to point out something you'd like, thank whoever you're praying to, thank them for providing you with whatever it is. Okay. Myself, I'm going through a real major shift right now. Okay, and it is all very much in great deference to my little brother. Because however that conversation went today, something in it stuck, something sunk in. And if I am right in my assessment, which I'll find out in a little bit, like within the next, I should know within the next week. But if it sunk in the way it feels like it did, I should be in pretty good shape in pretty short order. I'm curious what it was you were thanking them for. It's funny. I originally went, I just want to get off this mud ball. Absolutely, and that's an excellent thing to look for there, Philip. That really is. Oh, I'm saying I was a little preoccupied today with other things, but as I told you yesterday, when I said I'd look at it right after I got done with the live feed, I will take a look at it today, and I will respond to it when we get off. When this live stream is done. And again, we literally do this issue of making a note for myself so that I know that I've got to get to it. Oh, it does, Shadow. That's the funny thing. When I was a kid, I just wanted off the mud ball. Okay. I managed to do it. I've been off this mud ball multiple times, way beyond count at this point. Primarily because, frankly, I don't feel like counting it. But, the reality of it is I got off the planet. The thing is, I didn't specify don't bring me back. So now I mentioned I was going to show you something. This was something this is what I mean by working on gifts. Okay. This was something that I actually made for my father for Christmas one year. Okay. Now, I'm not going to try. Actually, I can do it this way. This one is handmade. I am not a great, I don't do sweaters and what have you. Can't show you how long it is, but it's touching the floor. So I made that one for my dad. I've got another one that I made up front for my brother, and I'm working on a big one now. But this is just one of those things I had to quit crocheting 4 years ago because of the fact that my left hand gave up on me. One of those funny little problems where you have a stroke. It really screws up motor functions. So, of course, when my father died, I asked my brothers if I could have that one back. Should have brought the other one. But that said, when we're looking at reality is a real simple issue. Okay. You take a look at what is going on with your life and ask yourself, are you content? Are you happy with your life? If the answer is yes, then absolutely stay the course. But I do caution you, okay, there are laws out there that you absolutely would be well advised to follow, whether you agree with them or not. Because I don't know about you, but not following the laws has way too many complications. Not knowing what a Doctor Who scarf looks like, I'll have to take your word for it. But am I getting back into crocheting? Yes, because I've got a number of people that I've got to do Christmas gifts for this year. Well, I don't have to, but I did decide that most of the Christmas gifts I'm dealing with this year are going to be at least partially homemade. Okay. And the reality of it, from my standpoint, is this. I could go the route of going, oh, let's buy them gift cards or let's buy them something that somebody else made. Okay, I could absolutely do that. I have no idea how to change the shape on things, and that becomes a problem. But what I do know is if you desire your world to shift gears, you've got to be the one making it happen. Now, I just finished taking, I spent a lot of what I ended up spending the day doing was working on this. That's the hard copy for Return to Paradise, the next book in the Yldrbac Chronicles. So I've been working on getting that dealt with. It absolutely is there, Shadow. Shadow's just saying, it is better to give than receive. So, I'm looking at it's going to take me a little bit of time to get things done, but I've got a list of the people I'm aiming at. And my reality this year is real simple. Since I don't have the capacity to do certain things, like I am not a woodworker of any functional value. Homemade usually does. This particular one now, I didn't make it. My son, when he was in grade 2, made this for me. Okay. And it has been used every day for the last 23 years. It's been sitting on my desk. And my coffee usually sits on it. Of course, I keep switching hands with my coffee. Gets it all kind of confused. Well, this one's a coffee mug. This one was simply a placeholder for my coffee. Is it perfect? In my eyes, this is more valuable than pretty much anything else that I've got in the way that things feel. Okay. I've got gifts from my other child as well. And again, it really, that's just it. For me, the homemade thing is a real important factor. The other issue is this. When reaching out to people, and this is where it gets really complicated for me on occasion. I became reclusive decades back. Okay. And now I'm finding, okay, let's get out, let's step into the spotlight and let's make this a reality. Let's take this issue, this live stream, and let's make it go global. Now, obviously, I cannot do this on my own. Okay. I can facilitate the whole thing as far as being here on a regular basis and knowing I'm going to be here. Okay. But this is where this fine little request comes in that if you haven't done so already, absolutely please give us a thumbs up if you like the stream. Do hit the subscribe button. And remember, when you're hitting the subscribe button, hit the fine little bell to the left of it, I think. Okay, to let you know when they're coming and when the next one's coming out. Okay, because the reality is it finally dawned on me. And now all of a sudden I've got this new little image here of, why can't I? What is the difference between me and somebody standing up on a video and going, fear everything going on around you. If you don't do exactly what you're told, you're going to be punished. Now, literally millions of people tap into these things overall. Okay. So where is the difference between somebody standing up and going, oh, the world's going to end, we're all going to suffer, it's all going to be famine and, and blackouts and shortages. Okay, I'm not about to tell you that it's all going to collapse. No, the Reaper and I have an understanding there. The funny thing there is, Philip, I've seen the Reaper so often. He just looks at me and goes, again? He knows full well I'm not staying put. Sad to say, much as I am adamant that I am going to aim at seeing the 22nd century, which means if I manage to pull everything together, and I am looking at changing my diet, my outlook, my spiritual path, I am looking at doing so in such a way that, yes, I'm looking at spending another 80 years. Now, for me to get to that point, okay, well, I don't know if he's a friendly Reaper or not. I know he doesn't seem to have a problem with me. But I will have to reach 137 years old in a functional body this lifetime. But my little brother, when I was talking to him today, gave me a couple of key points, and I know he's told me before, okay, that for whatever reason seems to have clicked. Now, whether it sticks solid by Monday, that remains to be seen. Okay. Do I know I've got some hiccups? You bet. Okay. But that doesn't mean they cannot be corrected. Every single one of you has hiccups, has complications in your own life. The question is, are you going to hang on to them? Are you going to live in fear of the fact that you've been told, undoubtedly, because I know I was, okay, you undoubtedly have been told, as you get older, your eyes are going to fail, your health is going to suffer, you're going to develop arthritis, you're going to develop joint problems. I was told all the same things. Okay. Yeah, the reality is, although that's an interesting idea there, Philip, that came out well. Quite frankly, my goal for me was to stay in this body. Now, the real problem with my going into an Android body personally is I get agitated and computers short. Okay, they just short out badly. The way I figure it, anytime you're starting to build something, if you're trying to outdo what was done from a natural evolutionary standpoint, and I'm talking the biological evolutionary standpoint, every single time mankind has tried to do something like that, they have screwed something up royally. Now, in my case, electronics and I, you take a look at the phone. Now, you know what a pocket dial is. I can put my phone on the other end of the house, and my phone will phone people. Okay. I can be on the phone. As a matter of fact, it happened the other day. I was on FaceTime with my other half, and my phone, while I was on FaceTime, phoned my little brother. Okay, now this is just a bizarre setup. But we have to look at this as a society. We can stay going, oh, the world's going to end, we're all going to die. And I will tell you this, we are all going to die. Yeah, no doubt there. And I'm going to have to be going through some. I'm just looking at what World is putting here. He goes. Yes, my handmade miniature terrain for gaming is way better than the stuff they sell. Okay. Yeah, let's face it. Nature has had a lot more of a run at it. They've had a lot more practice. And this is why I get a kick out of people when they go, oh, I can do better than nature. Every single time they screw it up. Okay. Yeah, when I start looking at my reality, I've got all this stuff, and I know this shelf over here I've got empty. That one right there. Okay. I've got to empty that and get the stuff into another location. Because and then of course I've got to move this station here. And within the next few months, I will be moving this whole office array into my bedroom. I will end up blocking off because you don't need to see my bedroom itself. The reality, what do we got here? Oh, I'm just trying to see what that was referring to. The reality of it is when we start taking a look at the way that your world is running, understand whatever you do, whatever you say to people, whatever you put the energy into, this is what you are helping to propagate. And this is where I have that complication with sitting back and listening to somebody that constantly tells you the world is going to end. We are going to war. We are going to have famine. Okay. Famine, there's shortages of this, that, and the other thing. I'll tell you, there is a massive shortage of common sense in this world at this point. It really is one of those complications. The one thing I've done with the figures you guys are talking about in the chat room. Star, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Oh, neat. Yeah, if I could ever wrap my brain around Minecraft, that'd help. My son plays it periodically. He used to play it all the time. But when we take a look at where your world is, funny thing there. Where are we? Go back up to. Oh, I see. Okay. Every time I turn around, somebody's saying the world's ending next year. I'm like, why do I always get told at the last minute that the world's ending? Okay, I mean, we turn around, world's going to end. Let's go and buy all this stuff because we have to stockpile for death. I got news for you. If I'm going to die, let's just get it done and over with. But we have the ability, if we work together, to turn this whole shenanigans around. We can take this whole thing and turn it around. Okay. The way I look at it, people talk about responsibility. When we're talking about the nature of reality, it boils down to looking at your world and going, am I setting up to leave a better world behind me when I go than what it was when I got here? Okay. Oh, something I did forget that I did neglect to mention here, people. If you like the video, whoever is out there, absolutely do me a favor and share it to whoever you can. Because honestly, the one thing I have found that I do lack in, and I am getting better at, and quite frankly, if I get out of my own way and quit procrastinating, I'd probably do better. Is I've looked at things going, I just can't market. Well, the sad reality of it is, I took somebody with a very cottage industry and guided them through telling them what was missing. They had to do the work. Do not get me wrong on this. Okay, but they took it from a cottage industry to an intercontinental business. Okay. What is this? Phil's just going, if the world is going to end, some people are going to buy 3 rooms full of toilet and 3. Yeah, ain't that the truth? We're going into a lockdown, and what do people rush out and do? Buy lots and lots of toilet paper. I don't know about you guys, but when that whole thing started, I went, I'm already stockpiled on food for a couple of months. But I think that's where my concern was. Make sure you've got enough toilet paper, because Well, we don't want to go back to the old way of doing that. From my standpoint, we take a look at what we're reading. And this is why I say, if you're one of these people that feels you have to, that you feel compelled to post the things that go, oh, here's the news flash, the world died, the world's ending. So-and-so ripped off so-and-so. This person is, I hate this person because they've got more of this stuff. Okay. If you're one of these people that feels you've got to post that kind of thing, absolutely carry on. But can you do us all a really big favor, yourself included? Anytime you post something negative, turn around and post 2 things that are positive. Okay, now that may be so-and-so got married. Okay, you don't even have to have a great big long article on it. Just these 2 people got married. Okay. And even if you don't want to go that way, even if you want to leave it a little more anonymous, a couple of my friends got married last week. These are positive things that show that, things are shifting for the better. Okay. World, that is just terrible. That really is. Has anybody ever told you you've got a really, really twisted sense of humor? But I would love to see, I honestly didn't think I would, but at this point, I really would like to see this channel grow into the thousands, quite seriously, into the hundreds of thousands. I'm not expecting that in the near future. My target is still, as I said at the beginning, of this year, my target is to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. Now, right now, I'm already 35% of the way there. Thanks so much to you guys that are actually helping with that. Okay. I've met Bigfoot. And people that tell me Bigfoot is such a violent individual, I'm like, you never met the man. Mind you, I do find it fascinating that so many people turn around and they go, they turn around and go, let's go on a Bigfoot hunt. Now, I don't know about you, but if I get word, and they will get word, that you're out hunting them, my guess is they're not going to stand up and wave at you. Especially with mankind's general propensity for opening fire on somebody and then going, are you friendly? It's like, well, I was friendly, but that shooting at me kind of made me think otherwise. The neat things, Well, okay, a couple of things, and that is very much the case there, YJ. This is why I mentioned a while back, there's a couple of things you look at. One is a dream board, as in a board where you simply go, these are the big goals. Now, for instance, and I'll just go over here because I can. I pull this out and I go all the way back to must be under personal. Paper, personal. Yep. This is a real simple dream board. Okay. This took all 12 of the goals all 12 goals that I've got that I can start making, There's 12 goals. These are just gross, or if you will, big picture items. Then I turn around and I work with this thing called list in order to write down, to break it down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks in order to attain these goals. Okay. Now, tonight, one of the other things I'll be doing once I'm done this particular stream is I will be going in and getting racked off 10 pages out of the 60, 59 or 60 pages. I'm going to go through this, okay, and expand expand 10 pages so that it is ready by the time that I've got the pictures finished. This can go to print for the second printing. Okay, that's just one of the goals that I've got here. Okay, what do we got here? Just looking at what Philip wrote. My brain seems to be posting more negative than positive to me. I'm working on correcting that bad habit, but I keep going back to negative thinking habits. This frustrates me. Well, the trick there, okay, the trick there, Philip, is when you think of something bad, something that is going sour, if you will. Okay. When you look at something you feel is negative, ask yourself, what good can you find in it? Okay, like let me ask you this. Last night, I almost had another heart attack because I let my stress get out of hand. Now, is this near heart attack a negative? Would be the first question you look at. And this is just an example. And I mean, for me, heart attacks are just plain normal. You know, I call them heart attacks. You know, I call them hiccups. You call them heart attacks. You know, one is an annoyance. The other one is downright deadly. Yeah, see, I personally live by a very simple philosophy. You plan for the best, you brace for the worst, and you live for the moment. You know, now I never honestly dreamed that I would actually look forward to coming online, but it is one of the things that periodically ends up waking me up. You know, I'll be dozing in the afternoon, and then my alarm goes off at quarter after 4. I'm like, oh, I gotta get online. You know, so sometimes I don't end up with as many tags and what have you set to spread the information. You know, hey Nathan, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully work went well. You know, and something I should do here because I usually do, so I'm going to. Now this is that neat, and I know I do this right at the beginning of right at the top of the chat room, but this is just simply a way of helping bring it back into the cycle. Now, again, reality boils down to this. Okay, I have decided that first of all, I am going to push this. Well, these run hand in hand. I am going to be pushing the video, the live stream. Okay, I am going to continue with the books. And where is this? Nathan, where are you? I am curious, Nathan. And you know, you're in the room right now. Now, as I recall, at least I think you're still in the room. As I recall, your show is tomorrow at 7 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Mountain. But you know, do you have any idea of what your topic is tomorrow, or are you just going to, or are you just running by ear? You know, where is it? Philip. There are some topics I won't touch on this one. I won't touch much because it runs into a snag. Oh, okay. Well, we'll start with thanks for the correction. You heard him, people. Tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Mountain, which makes it 10 o'clock Eastern. And you can go all over the place for that one. Okay. Oh, that ought to be interesting. That ought to be an interesting one. Okay. You know, because Nathan's just doing the personal power stories he's heard lately. Okay. And I will tell you, this is the one thing that I really desire to see happen, is for people to really, really grab a sense of self and a sense of self-worth and reclaim power over your own life, not control over anybody else's. Okay. But this is one of those things that we really have to look at. Now we're doing really good right now. Right now we got 17 people in the chat room. Okay. Would I love to break our record right now? I think my record on you, as far as YouTube's records go, is at 26 in the chat room at once. I would love to break that. Okay, and that is something I'm going to push towards. But I've got to find a way to make it so that it is something people need to come, in my opinion, people have to come away from this feeling better, not feeling worse about the way their life went or the way their day has gone. When I had the near heart attack yesterday, I'm like, no, this has just got to stop. But there was something positive that came out of it. I turned around. I had to turn around and go, okay, what am I looking at backwards here? Because my body will not continue taking the kind of stress I'm in and that I'm, basically bombarding it with. Okay. But I will tell you, the support that I get through this chat room, through Spaced Out Radio, through the various different YouTube channels, and all of the ones that I'm listing here are really working nice. They really are. The nice part about it, when we take a look at the way the world is, what people call a paranormal, what Nathan there calls a paranormal perspective. What most people call paranormal, I just call normal. Okay. Because it happens so regularly to me, I just kind of look at it going, what, there's a different way of doing this? Probably would be an idea. But the nature of reality is real simple. Okay. When the idea that seeing is believing is absolutely backwards in my experience. Believing is seeing. Okay. And what I mean by that is if you don't believe that it's possible, you're going to have, in all likelihood, challenges trying to accept that it is. And I've talked to way too many people that have said, oh, I believe in ghosts, I believe in aliens, etc., etc. But the moment they're faced with a reality interaction, they run into problems. The reality that I have come to understand is people have, in essence, lost the direction to the way they wanted, that they desired their life to go. Okay, and it really boils down to going, am I content with where my life is heading? Or am I not? If you are, absolutely stay on the path. But if one thing is feeling off kilter, then it's time to start making shifts, to start making changes. This I'm going to put right back where it belongs. That way I don't have to try and figure it out later. What do we got here? Sure, fingers aren't going to work properly, so we'll do that. One of the things about staying organized, and this is a matter of reality, okay, if you're not content with the way things are tracking for you right now, very necessary to get a handle on it. Now, I do not see, I don't think I see. Well, yeah, that's it. We fall over. That's going to go over well. These are just different little files I'm working on that are not necessarily cooperating with what I'm aiming for. I've got to track down a few things I've done here. Okay. One of the biggest things I find that really works is when I'm talking to you guys. Yes, I feel like I'm talking to myself an awful pile. Okay. And in all fairness, half the time I probably am. But when you find something that you're not content with, like I was about to go, can I see a show of hands from people in the chat room that have a goal that you thought about or a dream you had when you were younger that you've put on hold, and now you're looking at it going, well, it's too late to do it. Okay, I'd love to say let's see a show of hands, but the reality of it is Well, showing hands might be an interesting setup. What do we got here? What do we got? YJ is going, instead of O'Connor's razor, I assume the most absurd is the explanation that is the explanation, and then work the bugs out, ending with the mundane. Well, I will tell you this. Ultimately, that is sort of correct, but here's the kicker to it. Oh, yeah. Don't believe anything. I don't believe anything. I either know or I don't know, and I don't know. One of the authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, when answering a question, I forget which, he's a French author, the reality of it is this. Now, Philip, from your Mad Geek, Matt Geek, my apologies. The neat part of that, and that's excellent, Star. Okay. I accomplished very few, I really didn't put that many goals together. This year, I've got a bunch of them lined up. It was funny. I looked at something the other day. Somebody had a post. Oh, never make a list about anything to do. Lists don't work. So make a list of the things that you don't want to get and want to continue with. Now, I'm not sure, but I think that's a bit contradictory. The reality is, it depends on what there's a saying that I found out a long time ago. You notice I'm having major problems speaking today. The one thing I did find out is that you can accomplish anything in life if you set your sights low enough. Okay. If you desire to sit on your tail feathers all day and just put your feet up and stare at the idiot box, this can be done by many people. For me, I have troubles with it. I get bored and then I got to get up and get something done. But I decided that it was time to start really shifting gears on what I'm working with. Yeah, absolutely there, Star. Everybody has a different way of doing things, and the people that sit there and tell me, the reason I stopped is all of a sudden I end up with a real foggy, disconnected video image here. I don't know what it did over on the other one yet, but we'll see. The big thing for those of you that, hey Raven, I didn't see you come in. Let's see. I'm glad you can make it, and hopefully your day's been going good. The reality is, when we have a goal, if you've got a goal to complete by the time you're 20, and you didn't complete it by the time you're 20, it's clearly too late to do it by the time you're 20, but it's not too late to complete it. The nice part about it, is that we can take a look at the way the world works. We can take a look at what's going on, what isn't being done. And there are so many people that I talk to that go, well, this should be done this way. This should be done that way. They're great at saying what should be done. But the real question we have to take a look at is, if you're saying it should be done this way, are you making an effort to at least change that aspect in your own life? Okay. Yeah, quite often. And here's something that goes hand in hand with that, YJ. YJ's has just mentioned that, but for him, for YJ, the scientific method is more of a roadblock than anything. That's because the reality of it is that when you're looking for a scientific explanation, okay, first of all, it says, prove it works. Okay, then we'll believe it. The reality is 9 times out of 10, if you believe it's possible, you can figure out how to get it to work. But the belief that it's possible has to come in place. I was always brought up with the idea that whether you believe you can do something or you believe you cannot, either way, you are likely to be correct. Okay, because the moment you say, I can't do it, you're all of a sudden shutting down that drive. Now you've got to be careful. Okay, and I've made the mistake before that you have to, that you have to really get your mindset on the idea of, I'm going to do it in spite of. Now, this has been my outlook on health most of my life because every time I've relied on somebody, it's backfired. So I figure I'll find natural ways of doing things and modify them. Yeah, and Raven, I don't know, I don't watch TV, so I can't give you that. But I often wonder because I know I've got a mouth on me, and I don't think about what I'm saying first. I usually turn around. Somebody will ask me a question, and it's like, a few years back, I was asked on Spaced Out Radio. Somebody asked me, "Why should I believe what you're telling me?" And I came back. I didn't think about it. Thank heavens, Dave was quick on the uptake. Because Kimberly, how you doing? I'm glad you could join us. The guy asked that question, and he says, why should I believe you? And I never even thought. I looked at him and I says, just out of curiosity, what makes you think I care if you believe me? The reality is I cannot prove much of what I'm telling you. Okay, I will tell you this. When I've looked at a trend, and people go, well, where's your proof? The proof comes out 20 to 30 years down the road. Okay. Now we are hitting 18 right now that is holding stable. I would love to see this get up over the 27. I'm going to have to look. I can figure out what that is. Ironically there, Philip, people's chronological age is seldom where people make the connection. I never did. I still don't relate to people my own age. Okay. As a matter of fact, the reason I ended up turning to younger people is because, in my opinion, with most of the people my age that I've met outside this room, and I don't know who all's in this room as far as ages go. Okay. But most of the people I meet face to face when I find out what their age is, if they're my age, most of them literally seem to have one foot in the grave and the other one on a banana peel. Yeah, I was lucky. I just about dropped 300 feet into a chasm one day, and I'll tell you that was a shock. Okay, I didn't actually let go of the rope, but my little brother was madder than a wet hen at the person that nearly got me killed with that one. Gee, I got a day or two on you there, on you there, Shadow. How we doing there, Lazarus? Glad you could join us. I'm looking at the world in this way. Now, so many people I talk to look at 2022 just as a recent problem and go, oh, it was a shambles and we're going into more, more famine, more war, more shortages. I'm looking at it going, that's not my part of my reality. I'm turning things around because, frankly, I'm tired of being broke. I'm tired of being blind. And seriously, right now, I'm really tired of having a heart that stops on a whim. Because that can, strokes I'm just not interested in. Heart attacks are painful. Yeah, I mean, the reality from everything I've seen is we can focus on, oh, we're going to go to war and this person is stupid and they're doing this wrong, and we can buy into all that, or we can go, okay, yes, there are wars going on. We have to know they're going on, but there are also things like what I'm seeing here. More and more people coming into the chat room. More and more are coming in going, we've got to find something positive to look at. Well, are you certain your science teachers hated you? Some science teachers are YJ. Some of them like people that look outside the box. Okay, many of them, the ones that don't are the ones that don't really like teaching to start with. Okay. Who do we got? Oh, there we go. Suburdo. How you doing? Suburdo, my apologies. I am glad that you joined us. Where are we sitting here? Oh, look at that. We are climbing. And, the reality is this can be, one person does not change the world. Okay. They don't. But one person can start said change. And this is what I'm looking at this point. In case you hadn't noticed, my energy is running a little higher at this point, which, in all fairness, is really due to a lot of pushing and a lot of support that I've gotten from this very room, or more to the point that I've received from this very room. Okay, I'm still trying to figure things out and probably will, for quite some time. So I mean, we take a look at this and we have to realize, like, I've got sitting in my possession, I'm in the middle of drawing it out a little better. Now, I'm no scientist by today's standards. I've never been trained. And yet I'm sitting on non-scientific, it really boils down to sketch work, schematics for what I call an infinity drive, but the actual term is the OTE drive, the oscillator densification of the tri-transformational equipolarity. Okay, it's a perpetual drive that does not wear out. Now, I don't have the technical know-how to be able to build it. Okay. And, it's going to take, because of the price, the price people put on things, it's going to take a fair chunk of money to put it together. But that's not my big concern. Again, I'm just trying to translate this here, YJ. YJ just wrote, well, later on in life, my old grade 19. Oh, okay. I'm thinking your teacher bought you a beer when you were in grade 9. I'm thinking that cannot be correct. Okay. The reality of the whole 9 yards is we take a look at the way our life is. We take a look at the way this world is running. And ask yourself, are you going to help perpetuate the real disconnect that's happening right now? Or are you going to start working towards something else? Okay, of a more positive nature. For me, I've made the decision for me. I cannot make the decision for you. Okay, something just dawned on me, and since it did, I'm just going to go take a peek at it. All this stuff has to be filed away, so we will mark that down. All of a sudden I'm sitting there going, there's something bugging me about what's behind me. And this is that funny little thing I mentioned about about the list. Okay. We have to decide on the whole. Okay. Every individual has the same thing they're facing. Okay. You've got to decide, are you going to look to the negative past and bring that negative energy forward? Or are you going to go, no, don't need that anymore. Make a little bit of a shift and let's find the positive side of what is changing. Okay. What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. when you look at it, you have to ask yourself, is what you're doing helping? Okay. That's an interesting concept. I would love to. In all fairness, YJ's just saying, he goes, I know 2 people who work for Elon Musk. Maybe we can put your concept from paper into production. I've got sketches for things, but I am not a scientist, so I've got no way of going, here is the dimensions you need. Here is the formula you need to work it out. What did Raven? That's the funny thing. Okay. Much as I agree with you wholeheartedly there, Raven, that when Saturn hits Pisces, it is going to have a very positive influence. But my question to you, okay, and this is my question to every single individual that looks at astrology in any capacity, why wait until March? Okay, why wait for that celestial event to happen? Why not start that shift now? Okay, this is the reality behind the nature of reality is you have control over whether to wait for that to happen, so something else or somebody else says, now it's time to go, or for you to go, I'm taking control of my life. I'm shifting it now. I'm done waiting. Okay, I wait another 2 or 3 months to get my finances sorted out. I'm dead in the water. Okay, now I've worked it out in my own head. Not a problem there at all, Lazarus. You have yourself a good night. Glad you could join us. When we take a look at, when we take a look at the way reality is, we have the ability to shift gears, okay, and make these changes now. Absolutely, and that's the neat part. So just taking a look at that, Raven. If the river is going this direction, if you get a pile of people working at it to modify where the energy is, we can redirect the energy in another direction, even before it gets there. Even before everything is lined up properly. It requires cooperation. And this is something that we really have to bring back into balance. Okay. The idea that things like, the whole concept of energy, the whole concept of health is a cooperative effort. Okay. And this is what we have to realize. So many people give their power away to the boss, to the politicians, to the so-called elite, okay, or to the religious or spiritual leaders. Now, I call myself a spiritual guide, absolutely, but I will also tell you wholeheartedly, do not just take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay. The interesting thing that I have found is this. Okay, I honestly never even considered the idea of ending up in the situation I am right now. It used to bother me. I was down at the skateboard park here a number of years ago before COVID hit, and I'm sitting there talking to one kid. There were 3 or 4 kids I was talking to, and all of a sudden, I kid you not, 30 to 40 people, ranging from 8 to 80, sitting around this hillock around me. And I'm looking at this going, this is way too freaking familiar and making me really uncomfortable. I was not ready for the spotlight at all. Okay. At this point, and like I said, something twigged this morning when I was talking to my little brother. Okay. I did at 50 years old. I taught myself how to skateboard Now, I only got comfortable going around in circles and up and down a couple of minor ramps. But the reality was, it got to a point where I realized, bear in mind, I'm on a cane. Okay. So being on a skateboard, way too much pressure on the side of my knee. So I decided to give it up, just go, no, I think I'll just keep walking. But a number of years ago, I guess it'd be probably 6-7 years back now, here I am sitting on top of a hillock with, somewhere between, 40 and 50 people sitting around me, listening to me talk. And I'm going, I'm in the middle of a crowd here. This is not what I had in mind as a good thing. Now I'm looking at it going, I am quite willing to tangle with the world. And I don't know what happened. I really cannot pin it down. I know whatever it was happened while I was talking to my little brother. Okay. Now, do I know how I'm going to pull it all off, or whether this is going to continue? Here's the reality I've got to look at. And this is the nature of reality itself. I'm taking a look at it and I'm going, I've got this drive right now. It is up to me to push the limit and say, okay, what can I accomplish? Now, I was looking the other day, yesterday, I think, I was looking at a magazine that I had done about 10 years ago. Okay. With the whole idea of making things a little bit more positive. And of course, I joked about it. I am positive. I'm positive I don't like being around people. And that is something I too have the ability to shift gears on. Okay, I can take that energy and go, okay, now it's time to start really working on how to make things happen. Okay. It's funny. I'm looking at this. What do we got here? Well, it's possible, of course. In today's world, I take a look at the rumors that are floating around and just go, 90% of the rumors that I hear out there, I just totally ignore. Okay, because I don't see the point in putting any effort into listening to them. Because rumors are usually, at least in my experience, designed to cause somebody a problem. And quite often they are sparked by somebody who happens to be jealous of that particular individual. Is it possible that, that any one of us could have been cloned? Certainly. Could have been cloned, could have just been replaced, whatever. The sad reality of it there, Philip, I run into the same problem with off-worlders. I really do not discriminate between crowds. If I'm working, I've got no problem with it. If I'm not working, I run into a snag. And that is something I've got control over, whether or not I let that continue. And this is why I'm looking at things right now. This whole trip to Vegas that everybody was asking me about, I've had to reassess it because of setbacks. Am I still intending on going? The answer is yes. Problem is, do I have the funding to go? Technically, I could do it, but with no income at all right now, it becomes an interesting challenge. Saint, here's a neat little trick for you. And any of you that are listening, this thing works like an absolute charm. Okay, your head is pounding right now. Take either hand, right or left, it doesn't matter. Okay, place it palm down on something that normally sits on the ground. Okay, be it the wall, be it a heavy chair, be it a desk, it doesn't matter. Okay, put your hand down, palm down, and you visualize the excess energy running out of your body, much like water out of a faucet. You'll feel the excess energy drain out of you, you're likely to feel yourself get a little heavier, get a little bit more grounded. Okay, it works like an absolute charm, and I've seen headaches go bang and they're gone. Okay, it's something you might want to give a shot to. Okay, it's just a thing. I've given that tool to a lot of people. Now, I cannot be classified as a Reiki master. I have never been trained. Okay, but I will tell you, my methods work faster in many cases, just from what other people have said. In all fairness, Jenny, you're absolutely right. I took a look at it, and if you watch the X-Men, okay, they tell you about Charles Xavier, who for the first 3 years of his ability felt like he was being bombarded by everybody. Well, I was born empathic and a medium. Okay, so I've had I don't even just get the emanations from the live people. I get them from the dead, and that can be overwhelming to an incredible level. First rule of thumb there, Philip: if you actually desire to do that, write it down, put it on paper. Okay, and literally you write down that you desire to build a replica of it. Find and do the research, find out the dimensions. Okay. And as a matter of fact, and just a thought there, I don't know if he's still in the room, but talk to World. Okay. No, sorry, my apologies. Talk to Shadow. Shadow's got some phenomenal insights into how to build the miniatures. And that I agree with. There were a number of shifts that were taking place there, Star. I'm just looking back up a little. Star's just saying, I swear there was a huge reset at some point in either 22 or 21. I have the date somewhere, but I don't recall the date I felt it go. You know, the reality, what have we got here? Well, I do know for a fact that Archangel Michael never got stoned, but he just wasn't into that sort of thing. What have we got here? Things, the funny part is we are moving, and I can't remember the exact year, but we are starting to move into the age of Aquarius. Now, this was told of long, long ago. Okay. So we are moving into that in the very near future. No, in all fairness, he really wasn't. I kind of ended up with an interesting conversation with him one day, which is kind of like talking to myself on occasion, I feel. But no, the thing that really appalls me is the number of people that I watch that, we're destroying this artifact, we're destroying this beautiful piece of artwork, as if that's going to make the event go away. Every time I look at the way the world is, we have a choice that we have to seriously, as individuals, make a decision on. Are we going to turn around? Are we going to continue replicating and reproducing the same garbage we've been going through for the last number of years? Buddy of mine I was talking to, he says, what we're going through right now, we went through under different circumstances 40 years ago. Back in the 1980s, we had the same bunch of garbage. Okay. Gee, I thought a vintage beard was just a beard on old people. or just an old beard on people. What do we got here? Don't mind me, just hearing noises. Probably a door outside. But, anything that you can preserve, that you can create, is so much better. I like I said, I made the one blanket. The other one I made one for my brother. And I think, what is today? Today is Saturday. So tomorrow, I'm marking down here because I made a blanket for my brother. Okay. My brother, again, also passed away, and I got the blanket back. But when we're looking at creating things, the reality is you can... Malu, I haven't seen you in a while. Glad to see you got here. 1980s, what year? Well, I know in 1981 I graduated. Okay, which was really neat. I was diagnosed mentally retarded when I was a kid. So I confused the doctors and graduated on the honor roll, majoring in English and business, which is really stupid when you think about I majored in business and I haven't done a dang thing with it to make it grow. And that just about came out really poorly. We have a choice. 2023, we've got a choice. We can make this the best year we've ever seen, or we can make it a replica of one of the worst ones we've ever seen. Yeah, I have enough fun trying to remember whether or not I had coffee this morning. Of course, it's usually pretty easy for me. If I've got a cup out, the odds are it had coffee in it. But the question I've got for you guys, okay, is, are we going to continue letting society degrade itself? Hate that. Ow. Hate sneezing to try and blow myself all apart. We've got the choice. We can choose to really focus on the positive side of things and really start putting those out. Thank you. I appreciate that there, Raven. Way too often I sneeze, I end up biting my tongue. One of these days I worry I'm going to bite the thing off. But, we have a choice whether or not we're going to make this the best year yet, or let it do whatever it will and just go with the flow. Which, by the way, if you go with the flow, think about it. Anytime you go with the flow, it's kind of like riding a river. If you're going with the flow, you're going downhill. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really not that interested in repeating another downhill run. Yeah, it really did. I don't know if it was 89, but I do know the Berlin Wall coming down was a fantastic shift. It's kind of like when North and South Korea, or North and South Vietnam, I think, one of the two, just recently merged. Okay. The reality is we can bring this society back together by stopping focusing on the differences and focusing on the similarities between people. Well, Malu, very definitely, probably a bit belated, but my condolences for your loss. The reality is that is one of those things that it's going to be with you for as long as it is. There is no time frame that says, oh, you should mourn for this many days. I know people have tried to relegate that. Okay. The reality is we have the ability to influence all of these nations in defining common ground. It was said, centuries back, it was said that the Scottish clans would never unite. Okay, it was said that Canada would never be a country. The United States would never agree, and the UN would never come into existence. There's a lot of things people have said would never happen that are happening now. And it's up to us. Now, I am fully willing to look at it and go, my generation really dropped the ball in a lot of things. And therefore, it's a generation coming up that's going to have to straighten a lot of them out because most of mine are dying off. The way I figure it, though, I'm about to turn 60. Okay. If things go solidly, I could get another 20 or 30 years out of this. And I've decided I'm just plain not stopping until I drop dead. Okay. I've got a number of projects I'm working on, a number of things I'd like to see happen. I would really like to see this world come back into a balance where people are not wandering around going, oh, the world's going to end and we're all going to die. And well, we are all going to die. The Egyptians, we go back 5,000 years. Well, actually, at this point, we're 7,000 years. Okay. And the Egyptians thought the more stuff you have, the closer to God you are. So let's take all of our stuff, put it in a box with us when we die, and we'll have it on the other side. Well, in case you didn't notice, there's a lot of dead ancient Egyptians that thought the same thing, and their stuff stayed behind. Well, the one thing I'll tell you there, Philip, the term meant to, I don't believe in at all. We have the choice as to whether to figure it out. We have the choice as to whether to do it. But there is no meant to, in my opinion. There is no meant to. There is no supposed to. There are options. There are opportunities. And it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to do something with it. Okay. Right now, that's a big hope there, Joe. I'm just looking at this. Joe's going, hopefully Generation Z will fix everything. Generation Z cannot fix everything if we don't start showing them how. Okay, the two most wasted commodities in existence, in my opinion, is the enthusiasm of the youngsters and the wisdom of the seniors. Well, and that is something that is very possible there, Jenny. But I'm a firm believer that when we start focusing on really pushing the idea of, this can be better. If you're following the teachings of somebody that says fear, if you're following somebody that says fear the creator, fear the leader, honor them, do what they tell you, but fear them because they're vindictive individuals. This is not necessarily going to help. Okay. And I will tell you, there is not any one religion, one nationality, one gender. There's not a one that everybody is the same way. There's an old saying that goes, clothing makes the person. Well, if that were in fact the case, does it not stand to reason that every person in the military at the same rank would behave the same way? Or does it not stand to reason that people in a private school that wear uniforms would behave exactly the same way? Now, fear doesn't make you hide there, Philip. It just encourages you to do so. And in all fairness, the thing you got to remember with fear is courage is not a lack of fear. Courage is action in spite of fear. Ultimately, you're absolutely correct, Raven. And it is the one thing that people are propagating all over the place. Okay, it's like, we have things that are in common. Virtually every human gets dressed the same way. You all put your pants on one leg at a time. The only people that doesn't work for are the ones that don't have legs. Okay. And that's just it, Star. We dropped the ball. My generation dropped the ball big time, because what happened, from my recollection, is a lot of the kids my age, when we were in school, were going, I don't like getting disciplined. I don't like being told I can't do something in class. So I went home, kids went home, complained to their parents. Parents turned around, complained to the school board. And because the school board was afraid of losing their jobs, they changed everything. And now there is no discipline. There's no recourse to help people stay on track. Okay. Once in a while, you'll get an honest politician, but we do. People are absolutely propelled by fear. Okay, you think about it. People are not in work or in school or in any of the spiritual guidelines. People are not taught. You're doing this right. Here is the reward for it. Here's a pat on the back because you did something right. Okay, they're told, if you don't do exactly what you're told, we're going to punish you. Okay, so people started to fear the whip instead of looking forward to the pat on the back. And fear absolutely is. Although I do wonder about some of the drugs that are out there that seem to play absolute havoc. I wonder often, whether or not coffee is a mind killer. If it is, this would explain my being absolutely completely off kilter. And we have nothing to fear but fear itself and spiders. I'm not entirely, I know I don't, my dad told me the one thing that worried him about me was my absolute 100% disregard for fear regarding the metaphysical world. And I'm looking at the world right now going, I was quite content to stand in the background. And now what I'm looking at is going, okay, enough is enough. Let us step back into the spotlight, or into the spotlight for the first time, and literally start pushing the idea. Abuse isn't educational, but abuse is taught. Unfortunately, Philip, that's very much the way it is. Now, when I look at people that have done the misguidance, 99% of them are actually taught by somebody else that was done way before. Now, I do not blame parents for the kids. Don't get me wrong. Well, technically, if two people get together and they end up producing a kid, sorry guys, that is the parents' fault. Okay, but when it comes to parental teachings, school teachings, political guidance, the spiritual guidance, and I'll use that term really loosely. Okay, these people are all taught things in a very dysfunctional fashion. And that is why things have gone somewhat sideways. Well, as the saying goes, Raven, like Raven's just saying that, that she wishes that someone had taught her some of these things, and the reality is, granted, you may not have had the teaching before. You're still breathing. You've still got the option of making changes now. Abuse, whenever you're dealing with abuse, okay, it is literally, that is a control thing. Do it the way I tell you, or I'm going to punish you. And unfortunately, this is taught in the churches, in the schools. Many families teach it. Many businesses teach it. I mean, it is just absolutely rampant. Okay. And what I am now focusing on, yes, I'm still doing the writings. I'm still planning I'm still going to carry on with the information on the races. And that was something I forgot to do. So I best get that marked off. I've got pictures I've started to print off here. So I got to get that done as well. So I've got it for tomorrow. Yeah. Because my game tomorrow ends at about 3 o'clock. I go on the air tomorrow, or I go on the air here at 4:30. Absolutely, Raven. And this is something that we really have to take a look at it. That, that's the funny thing there, Philip. Like, you clearly have studied way more history than I have. Okay, of course, that's setting the bar really, really low. Yeah, my dad was the same way, Joe. We used to actually, dad wasn't a fireman, but dad did teach our entire family how to work with fire. The funny part with us was we had, we'd go out every spring and we would actually burn our entire yard. We'd set out the soakers and we would literally cut the lawn by lighting it on fire. And dad taught us how to work with it. And dad taught us how gasoline explodes in the middle of a gravel driveway. None of us kids went out and started playing with fire, but not a one of us panic when fire starts. The nice part about it is I am really looking forward to seeing things change. And it's really kind of weird from my end. Okay. I am looking at this going, and I will tell you, yeah, Philip's still in here. I will tell you this. People have asked me various questions on here about mainstream religion. I will tell you this. Absolutely wholeheartedly. I got no problem discussing it. But this is not the forum I'll do it on. If somebody comes up from a site, from a channel that desires to discuss, their venue is discussing and or debating religion, I'm more than willing to talk to them because there's a lot of things that have gone absolutely sideways. It's just this is not the field I'll deal with it in. Yeah, I'm lucky. Whenever I've had a flat tire, I have known about it, so I just carried on driving and didn't seem to be a big problem. See, and these are all, and like what we're talking about here is various different training techniques that people have gone through. Now, the reality of it is, it works for some people. I started working in restaurants. Well, realistically, at 9 years old, I started working in a canteen. Okay, dealing with money, dealing with customers. By the time I was 12, I was putting together the inventory order. Now, the only thing I didn't do at that age was I didn't phone the companies up to place it. Because Mom made a point, she goes, she'd ask me how much pop we need. And I'd go, well, we need 15 flats of Coke, we need 12 flats of root beer. And I'd list these off. She'd go, and she'd turn around and go, okay, Dad or I will phone the order in because the odds are if you phone in a 12-year-old going, I'd like 15 flats of Coke and I'd like, 5 flats of Sprite, and you phone a Cadbury and go, I'd like 3 boxes of Sweet Marie, the odds are the guys are not going to pay much attention. Okay. The neat little part, matter itself works that way. The body, like the individual body, you have control over whether your body heals. Now, do understand when I say that, okay, most people are not that adept at healing their own body. And therefore, modern medicine, modern, naturopathic medicine, energy work, these are all methods combined to help keep you healthy. Okay. Very, very necessary that we understand that it is by combining all of these insights that we can actually shift things in a positive fashion. Okay. And it really is up to us whether or not we do something about it. But we have the ability to make it happen. You've got the ability to take your life from where it is, and by focusing on it, and do understand, success is really simply put, okay, as when you take a look at it, success equals idea plus focused effort. Okay. Once you put the focused effort in behind something, Shadow, thank you so much for joining us. In all likelihood, assuming, of course, Nathan doesn't cut me out of the equation, in all likelihood, I will be. Okay, we'll just see where that goes. But, we have this wonderful situation going on where we are sitting on the precipice of an absolutely fantastic outcome. Okay, we can take the last number of years and go, okay, that's done. Where do we go from here? Okay, and the challenge is to really take a look at your own life and go, are you content with the way it is? Now, I personally am not content with my lack of control over my own temper. This is something that, oddly enough, the conversation this morning seems to have helped a lot with. How do you find Philip, and this is really meant as a compliment. Okay. My brother used to be able to do that too. He would come up with all these really bizarre pieces of information, and he'd just have them right on the top of his head. Of course, my brother had a tested IQ in excess of 188 plus and eidetic memory. Or more to the point, he had total recall. Yeah, I just love that as well, YJ. It's amazing. And from my standpoint, this is what I would like to see happen. Because I will tell you, when I'm looking at the chat room growing this way, we're sitting, and I don't know what the average is right now, but usually we are over the 10 to 15 people at this point, instead of 3 or 4. And this is, in my opinion, absolutely fantastic. I thought, as you've seen, I'll look at something and go, I'm going to talk about this, and that's probably the last place that we end up going. We find the same thing on Spaced Out Radio. Which, let me just think here, because, what do we got here? Yeah, next Friday, I'm back on Spaced Out. Speaking of which, we go to here, and we go copy, and we pop that in, and we go paste, and we will be here next Friday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Gee, I can't remember where I put my coffee cup half the time, much less my glasses. Which is fine. I don't need my glasses walking around the house anymore. And honestly, the Mac Geek, honestly, I do believe that is the case. This is why I always look in the chat room and go, okay, where's the conversation going? What is it people are looking at? Sometimes people are looking at something that I just won't go into. Like I saw in one chat room I was in, all of a sudden people were talking about how much they hated somebody. And I'm not going to go into that. Okay. Yeah, that's quite often where it ends up. I do agree with you there. Joe's just saying your coffee cup should be on your son's coffee cup holder. And more often than not, it is. Problem is I'll put it either here or I'll put it over on my son's cup holder, or I'll end up putting it over here. It depends on which hand it's sitting in. Matt Geek, I was talking to my son. You made a comment a couple of week ago or so where you had mentioned that my sticking to an IBM, because of the way my mind works, is likely the best option. And I told my son, That's when you know when you're dealing with somebody that's honest. Your name says you're bent over onto the side of the apple. But the fact that you'll look at it and go, yeah, it's a great machine, but it may not be the best move for you. See, I've always held that memory is absolutely 100% perfect in everybody. Where we run into a snag is recall. Okay. And I'm working on different hiccups. Hey, Dogface, glad you could get here. And yes, very super late, but glad you could make it nonetheless. Okay. I mean, realistically, we have all sorts of, in a manner of speaking, the answer to that question, Raven, is the reason I say in a manner of speaking is because of the difference and or possible similarity between dimensional and vibratory. But the different creatures that we know of that are not sentient, but that are just animals, okay, if you will, or just different parts of it, okay, we can absolutely discuss. Okay, some of that would fall into the category of cryptids, but I'm looking at the ones that are not. I'm thinking you're looking at the ones that are not listed as cryptids, if I am correct. Okay. You just, yeah. I can relate to that, Malo. The only difference is I don't find mine in the garden because I don't have a garden, but I'll find mine all over the house. There are a number of different species. That's one of those funny things I've been working on. I'm adding some of them to the volume 2 of Races of the World, to some of these other critters, of the actual creatures that are not technically, they aren't mainstream cryptids, but they do exist. Okay. Now, I am not the one to really, because I'm not the one that's done the research on the cryptids. The only cryptid I've got personal, if you will, firsthand knowledge on would be Bigfoot itself, and Ogo, and I know a fair chunk about Ogopogo and about the Loch Ness Monster. But most of the cryptids that are out there, I don't know much about. Well, the Chupacabra, that's a whole different ballgame. But most of the time when people talk about cryptids, we're talking about what people have done the research on. And if there's one thing I will tell you wholeheartedly I've never done, is the research on any of it. Okay. Oh, organizing is a neat little trick. Okay, and there are ways to deal with it. But organizing boils down to teaching your saying to learning different techniques. Like one of the things, because I've got a memory issue where it comes to certain phone calls, I've taken to making definitive notes and putting a date on them, which is the big thing I used to forget all the time. Make all the notes, forget to put a date, and then you're looking at it going like, what did this apply to? But we are going to change this world. We have an option. We can leave it the way it is, or we can start changing it. Okay. The question is, which one are we going to put the effort into? I know what I'm going to put the effort into on my end. Absolutely. That's just terrible, Mac. That really is. But I've really got to thank the bunch of you for joining me today. I am so happy you did. And we've held a steady 15, 16 people in the chat room for the entire period. Now, I'm certain some people came and went, but I cannot thank you enough for joining me today. Today, this is where we start. We can change this world. Okay, and we can change it for the better. That being said, I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.